Welcome to Buckets. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. This is your Best Bets episode for Tuesday, October 28th, in the association brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Glad to have you guys with us. You can catch everything that we talk about in tonight's show in the Action Network app, where you can find these three fine gentlemen. Kyle Murray from Roto Grinders at KMurDFS, rocking out projections across many sports, including golf and others. They both have sticks, Kyle. That's what the connection that I made there. Also, Kyle's got king of the court projections for us to talk about tonight, so we'll talk about those. The maestro of the market, Michael Fiddle, is with us. He is sweating as we go live here at youtube.com/the Action Network. He's sweating the under in Suns Jazz like a true sicko should. We'll see how he handles that because, oh boy, this Jazz offense is cooking. It's cooking. It's been good to start the season. I said it was like late in the process of preseason. I was like, you know what? The Jazz have some guys. Like, I get it. They're going to be bad, but like they have some guys. There's teams that I feel like have some guys and teams that don't have guys. And I feel like the Jazz have some guys. Also joining us from the Cash That podcast, Joe Dellera. Fiddle also, by the way, doing work for Yahoo this season. You should go check out his work over at Yahoo Sports as well, because love the guys over at Yahoo. I love everyone at Yahoo. I'm going on Yahoo Sports Daily this week on Thursday morning. I'm getting up at the crack of dawn to go talk to them. Hutton Jackson, who used to work with us over at Action, is on there. I found that out tonight. Excited about that. My old guy Doug Branson from Locked On NBA is over there. Very excited. So I love Mark. Of course, I love Dan Titus over there, who I worked with as a producer. He was one of the first producers of Buckets. Actually, Dan was great. Also joining us, Joe Dellera from the Cash That podcast. Make sure to check out the Cash That podcast and all of Joe's picks on the Action Network and the Action Network app at Joe Dellera. Fiddle is at Fiddle's Picks. On tonight's show, we will give you best bets for Tuesday in the association, as well as we'll talk about King of the Court from DraftKings Sportsbook. I want to go around the horn, though, on these nights. I think it's good to kind of like, I think it's really important to kind of look at the options that we have or what we've learned on the night-to-night basis. Like how have things kind of looked here consistently across the league, and like what'd you learn tonight? I think that's like a really valuable thing to go ahead and look at. So let's start with Michael Fiddle, who's so good at reading the market. What is kind of your lesson that you got from tonight?
There's been a lot of overs, and I think it's just the 3-point shooting and the pace across the league right now. So Hawks Bulls, that one was kind of an obvious one, flies over. Jazz Suns, chalk up an L for me probably in a second, because that's going to go over what was a clear under spot. So we've just seen a lot of overs to start the year, and last season was the first season in NBA history where there were more threes missed than twos missed on the entire season across the league. It's a crazy stat. So these teams are just chucking up threes and playing fast. So if you're going to put up that kind of high volume of three-pointers, these totals are just going to go over. I know after the first two nights in the NBA, it was 14-2 towards the over. I don't really care too much to go into those like trends and stuff, but it is something that we're seeing on a night-to-night basis. So I'm just going to be watching for lines to either be inflated or still have room to grow. So how is this market going to move? We've already seen 4 points of over movement in Heat versus Charlotte Hornets. That was opened at 236.5. We're seeing 241.5s on the board, 240.5 consensus. So like even right from open to now, there's 4 points of line movement towards the over. Is that something specific to Heat Hornets? Or is that something that's just going to become league-wide and move the board league-wide? So those are some things I'm looking for.
I know the sample is small, but when it's the only sample that you have present and it's because like the totals to me are indicative of where pace is at and where free throws are at in particular, because the foul rate has been just stupid to start. I can't believe how many fouls they're calling. I was really worried about this, and I didn't feel confident enough to make it like bets based off of it, because like who knows, right? Because here's the problem: is I talked to teams and they were like, "Yeah, we're preparing for hyper physicality. We think this is gonna be a more physical year, and we're gonna play physical like the Thunder." And then like I talked to people that were at the ref camp, and then they were like, "Yeah, no, they said that was too much, and they want to back off of that." And I was like, "This is gonna collide And that's kind of what we've seen here. Joe Dellera, what's the big thing that you've kind of learned from betting tonight?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that's been a little bit weird is the NBA Cup is starting soon. So we have the schedule right now, which gets a little bit wonky. Like I feel like the beginning of the season, we're getting more back-to-backs, more interesting schedule spots where the rest isn't as consistent. And I think that that's kind of affecting some of the injury reports. So I mean, even today, like Jaylen Brown was on the injury report for injury management stuff. The last 2 games wound up playing both. But I do think that that's going to be something to watch out for, just, not only the injury reporting, but also on these back-to-backs so that they can ensure that the games surrounding the cup games are open. How does that impact some of these rotations that teams are playing? Are they playing guys in both games, but are they maybe not playing, as extensive of a rotation? So just a couple things to kind of keep an eye out for as the NBA Cup starts. I think it's on Friday, so starts this weekend.
So the league, Shams Charania reported today, the league is sending out a memo talking about it's in response to obviously the investigations, the federal investigation, the arrest of Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, et cetera. We talked about on the show last week. How can I put this? The league never misses an opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So if there's something that they've been working on and the situation affords them an opportunity, they will take it. And that's what I would tell you to read this as. I didn't comment on it on Twitter because it's not a great thing to kind of talk about. People don't really want to people don't want to learn about like the betting side. They just want to kind of yell and throw hammers, and that's fine. They can throw hammers. But if you want to know kind of like an a more informed viewpoint of this, what I would tell you is the league, since betting began, has been extremely frustrated and tried to communicate to teams the importance of transparency in the injury reports. And the teams have told them to fuck off repeatedly. And it's a major tension point. This is a problem, is that the teams treat injury statuses as like CIA state secrets. On top of that, there is the problem of oftentimes teams are not aware of what personal health staffs for players, particularly the highest paid ones, have decided until much closer to the game, and then they have to react to that because those players have so much power and influence. And so this causes these kind of situations where it's like, I was listening to a panel with a current player one time, and he said this thing, and he's just like, it was a big level player, and he said this thing that has always stuck with me, which is, he said, if you're a superstar and you want to play, there is not a lot they can do to stop you. These decisions are much more made by the players than they are by the staffs. Now, the counter to that is actually, instead of the player not wanting to play and the staff wanting them to play, which is rare, it's usually the opposite, where the player's like, I'm going to play. I want to, we need to win this game. I want to play. And the training staff being like, based off of our research, there is like a 15% greater chance of you suffering a season-ending injury if you play tonight. And if your career and your earning potential is tied to that, that's going to make you go, ooh, like that's a pretty scary thing. All this to say that I do think we're going to see probably some changes over the next year in injury reporting transparency, regardless of what happens on the prop betting side. I think we're just going to see a lot of changes in that, because I think the league is finally going to use this as the mechanism to be like, hey, time to tighten this up here, because it's gotten absolutely ridiculous. Hey, Fiddle, I want to hit you with this before I get Kyle's. YouTube user says, I think we learned that we will not be getting to back the Sixers as dogs when Embiid is out any longer. They're better without him. Now, that was my entire cap on the 3-star play last night. Let's go! But I don't know if that's true, because they're not going to move the power rating off of this game. They're still going to power rate it the same with Joel Embiid out. They might upgrade the Sixers as a whole, but they're not going to negate the loss of Embiid. Embiid's still going to be worth the same amount to the spread, at least. That's the mechanism, is the Sixers have to get so good that it's like their numbers with Embiid will probably swell. So this might actually be a situation where, based off of my thinking, which is I do think they are better built right now without him. I love how they play without him. I'm not trying to pick on Joel. It's just watch, and they play awesome without him. When he comes back, tomorrow, I actually think that number is going to be overinflated, because they're just going to raise the base power rating for the Sixers and keep Joel's impact the same. Would you agree?
I would say they're probably going to decrease the point value for Embiid. So based on market ratings coming into the season, Embiid was worth 4.2 points ATS playing versus not playing. And so I think that might decrease a little bit, especially while he's on minutes limit. And so if he's playing 20 minutes a game, but I will say, like, within that, there's very actionable angles. Like Nick Nurse right now is playing Embiid his full minutes in normal spurts and then just removing him for the rest of the game. So does that create live betting opportunities in Sixers, in buyer sell points? How you feel relative to the Embiid value? They do have the Washington Wizards tomorrow, and then they finish the week with Brooklyn and Boston, who I wouldn't say, Boston's might be average, but their front court is atrocious. So there's a lot of kind of spots this week for Embiid to round back into shape. So I would say I want to take one more week to answer that. But the main thing I would say is that maybe Embiid's 4.2 ATS value decreases, or maybe it's worth like closer to 3 on a minutes limit, and then we'll gain more information as time goes.
Interesting. Okay, we'll see what the number is tomorrow with the Wizards as he tries to once again just clown that franchise. I don't know if Sarr is ready to kind of to battle him. My guy Tristan Vucevic is about to have a bad night. Kyle, anything you learned from tonight's slate?
Yeah, I think one thing I'm always trying to look into early on in the season is, either players exceeding performance expectations in certain games or underperforming than rookies. But I think the big thing that I learned, and I think I probably learned this last year after the Jonte Porter stuff, but I learned that we're going to have to deal with a lot of people saying, why didn't this player play this many minutes? Or why did, today it was Asar Thompson. Why did Asar Thompson only play 16 minutes tonight in a 30-point blowout loss where he had 4 fouls, 3 of them 5 minutes before half? I think that's going to be an interesting thing that we'll have to deal with now with the new landscape of prop betting. I think it is kind of funny when there's clearly information that we have that will dictate why players aren't playing a certain amount of minutes, but it's something that we're going to have to deal with, I think, going forward. But something that projection-wise, that sort of thing, is something I will be looking for in Asar Thompson, who's the guy who I was interested in on the points prop today. He kind of goes under, obviously, due to circumstances outside of a normal game environment. So those kinds of situations where I think regression could be due for a player in the next game, that's the kind of situations that I'm looking at, and that was one that stood out tonight.
Okay. We're going to do best bets, and then we'll talk about King of the Court later on from DraftKings Sportsbook, where the crown is yours. But first, this. The Buckets Podcast is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook, and in partnership with DraftKings, Buckets listeners get a great offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins, and 3 months of NBA League Pass. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code BucketsNBA when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code BucketsNBA when signing up and bet $5 to get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. Plus 3 months of NBA League Pass. The crown is yours. Okay, let's do some best bets, and then we'll get into King of the Court from DraftKings. Let's start tonight. I need I'm going to build like a animated wheel that will turn and then pick one of you at random. Let's start with Joe Dellera. Joe, what's your 3-star bet of the night?
So I like Jalen Brunson over 34.5 points plus assists. I'm running this one back. I was on this last game for Brunson, and I'm going to definitely play it against the Bucks. Brunson's still racking up a ton of potential assists with 8, 17, and 19 potential assists through 3 games, but the conversions need a little bit of work. He's only averaging 5.7 dimes. So his usage still sky high. He's the clear primary option for the New York Knicks when he's on the floor, and he's averaging 30.3 points per game. Bucks are playing at a top 10 pace in the league, and historically Brunson's played really, really well against them. Over the last few seasons, he's averaging 41.6 points plus assists against the Bucks. He's gone over this in 5 of 7 games. So I like the opportunity for him as a primary scoring option, but also I think that those potential assists are going to finally start to land at some point. The passes are there, the looks are there, and I don't really trust this Milwaukee Bucks team from a defensive perspective. So I think that some of the other guys on New York can maybe get their shots to fall off of these assists. So I like over 34.5 points plus assists.
trying to think what the guard matchup is going to be for him. Who's going to be the primary defender on him tomorrow? Trent?
Yes, so it kind of depends on who's in, right? On who's healthy. That's kind of been one of their issues, right? So we'll have to see who they actually match up with him. But I do think, Kevin Porter Jr. is out. So you're looking at what? AJ Green, Ryan Rollins, like Cole Anthony's out too, or he missed the last game. So I don't know if he's going to play this game. Really tough spot for whoever's going to have to defend him on the Bucks.
I don't want to like this as much as I do, but this does look like a great play. And we'll come back to it here in a little bit because it will resurface once we get to King of the Court, predictably, because Joe and his ongoing agenda-ridden campaign to drive this into a Knicks podcast.
Say the words.
Hate you a little bit. Michael Fiddle, what's your 3-star play of the night?
I'm going to go with the Miami Heat. I think you could find it -5.5 in the market right now. Anything 6 or less is good for me. The Hornets without Brandon Miller is definitely going to be a fade. He was integral. He was ranked second amongst the league executives in potential breakout players this year, right behind Amen Thompson. So I was looking for him to have an amazing season. Now we have the out indefinitely and Miami on the other side. A clear over team and a clear buy team right now, I think, in the market. They're deep. They're well coached. They have a good rotation. They're spacing really well. They're doing this thing that reminds me of the Indiana Fever this year, where whoever gets the rebound just takes it up the court. They have like no de facto point guard when it comes to playing, which that's going to make them an over team. So I mentioned the 5 points of line movement towards the over there. I think it's because they get the ball into their offense really quick. They're not wasting time looking for the outlet pass and then to set something up. They're just going. And so going against the Hornets, I think they could really thrive in transition. So I expect this line to close at 6.5. So grabbing that 5.5 in front of the key number of 6 is an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, I'll be on this as well. If I'm not doing best tonight, but this would have been my 3-star. I make this 9 based off of power rating, which I think the Hornets are decent. They've got some kick to them, but I do not like this matchup. Heat defense has been elite, and they push pace and run. We'll talk more about Davion Mitchell, who I'm ready to get tattooed in places that are inappropriate to talk about. That's how much I enjoy his game. So I love this kind of look here. 3 and 4 for the Hornets. Not a great rest spot, obviously. LaMelo has played really well. I also tend to think that teams coming off of games like versus the Wizards, like those are opponents where it's like you have a letdown after because you have to go back to playing actual teams. As much as I love the Wiz, great first half yesterday, Wiz, and then he just fell apart. It's very frustrating. Kyle Murray, what's your 3-star bet of the night?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay in that game. I'm going to Bam Adebayo over 9.5 rebounds here. Obviously a good spot here against the Hornets. You mentioned the potential letdown spot after coming off a game where you get to play the Wizards and kind of run around whatever you want. You're going to see some inflated stats there. That's why they currently have the #1 offensive rating in basketball. That number will certainly come down for the Hornets, and I think we'll also see a few more potential rebound opportunities with Brandon Miller out of the lineup. Bam Adebayo's looked pretty good in terms of his potential rebound or his rebound chances so far this season in all the games where he's played, his full complement of minutes. He's had 16 or more rebound chances, 16 in game 1, 18 last game. He's converted 12 and 13 rebounds. Game 2 of the season, only played 28 minutes, did some blowout, 8 potential rebounds, 5 boards in that game. But I like to throw those kinds of numbers out of the data. So it just comes down to a good matchup, good regression spot in terms of what we saw from the opponent. And I think, like you mentioned, the Miami defense being a top 5 defense so far this season, I think will help produce some more missed shots and some bad quality shots there for the Hornets, giving him some more rebound chances here. So I like Bam over 9.5 rebounds.
I'm interested in this one. That front court for Charlotte is really interesting to me because it's like Kalkbrenner and Diabate who are very active.
Yeah.
How much are they running the double big lineup with him and Khalil?
They've been doing it a pretty good amount. I know game 1 Ware didn't start, so he was and then he's been playing limited minutes where I think he's been down to 23, 24 minutes in both of the starts that he's had. Last game, I can pull up the minutes right now. Ware played 21 minutes last game, and it looks like the majority of the time he was on the floor was alongside Bam. So it looks like only like 3 or 4 minutes of Ware's 21 was without Bam last game.
Okay. Charlotte's got a high offensive rebound factor. They're 7th in offensive rebound rate this season, and they're actually 5th in defensive rebound rate too. That's interesting. But I do think this is probably a good spot because of how the Heat will also scramble them, and then that allows Bam to kind of slide in for offensive rebounds. So can't hate that based off of the projections on this one. So those are the 3 stars for the night. Let's go ahead and go to the 2 and the 1 stars. Joe Dellera, what else you got on the card?
I think we got you on mute.
I pulled a Matt. So I'm gonna
not me for once.
I'm gonna kind of piggyback a little bit off of what Fiddle was talking about in terms of the Philadelphia 76ers. So I do think that the market might move a little bit, but I do think that there's going to be a little bit of uncertainty in terms of when Embiid is getting these minutes in. So and I think it makes it a little bit tougher for the books to adjust what the individual like quarter or some of the smaller market spreads are. So I like the Sixers in the first quarter. I like them to start the game off strong. I do think that Embiid in this particular matchup is one where he's going to absolutely smash. We were talking about it last night. It's just hilarious that he sits out the perceivably tougher game and then is going to go is then going to go play on the second night of the back-to-back against the Washington Wizards. So great matchup for him. I think it's one he's going to want to show out in. And I do think that for Philly, they're going to be able to start off strong against Washington regardless. I do think that there are going to be some live betting opportunities like Fiddle was kind of saying. And Embiid's comments were basically, I don't want to play in these like 2 to 3 minute bursts. I want to play a normal rotation and then, pull me when you pull me. So I think that if Embiid looks good, if he's healthy, he's obviously going to be the best player or arguably the best player on the court with Maxey. But either way, it's going to be far better than anybody that Washington's got to put out there. So I like the Sixers to start off the game strong in the first quarter, and I think that it's a great matchup for Embiid. So that's my 2-star play. And then are we doing 1 stars now, Matt?
Yeah, hit me with the 1 star.
Okay. And then my 1 star is Davion Mitchell over 16.5 points plus assists. The scoring and the potentials for him are going to continue to uptick, I think, as he gets his minutes expanded as the season starts. I think he is a primary facilitator for this team. I also think, kind of what we were talking about in terms of Charlotte, not a particularly strong team, especially defensively. I think that Davion is an excellent distributor. And I also think he's going to be able to beat some of like LaMelo. If LaMelo's covering him, he's going to be able to beat him off the dribble too, or in some spot ups. As Charlotte does have like a little bit of a tendency to get a little lackadaisical on the defensive side of the ball. So I like his scoring upside here too, but he's always also somebody that can go out there and rack up 10, 11, 12 assists in one game. So I like the upside in both of these categories, and I'm interested in the over 16.5 points plus assists.
Why not just take the over on what's the assist line?
7.5. I know, like I looked at it too, and I was like, he just is getting enough minutes that he almost is I think he's just gonna walk into enough points here. He hasn't had like a strong scoring game yet this season, but when he does, he's somebody that can easily get double digits. And if he can get double digits, then we're really cruising with the assists anyway. So I think the assists can bail him out, but if he does start scoring, then I think that this is gonna be free.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I want to keep betting him because I love him. So I will go ahead and I will be with you on this. Fiddle, what are your 2 and your 1 stars tonight?
Can I make an adjustment on the fly here because of the way the board has changed? I was going to go with the Warriors on the under for their 2-star, Warriors Clippers, but it's already moved 2 points and now it's 3 at some places. So you're really paying into some tax that they might rest some guys after they're back-to-back on Memphis. So I don't think that's too actionable anymore without the information right now. Instead, I'll go Knicks Bucks under 231.5 available right now at DraftKings. Scary to go under but I do think this line should be moved probably 3 points lower. And so I'm going to take the under on that now. If you do get the full 3 points of wiggle room, you can even play back the over and open up the nice Fiddles middle. But I'll go with Knicks Bucks under 231.5. Obviously, some injuries. Kevin Porter Jr. was expected to be a key part of the Bucks kind of rotation and breakout this year. So I think him not having his offensive punch, I think not having Kuzma, who I think is on the wrong side of questionable or doubtful for this game, that loses some more offense. And then on the Knicks side, you're looking at Josh Hart being back to help their defense against the wings and guarding the 3-point line. The Bucks take a lot of threes, so the Knicks are a good team with OG Bridges and Hart to actually guard the wings very well. And then they're probably going to be running big, double big. Even if Mitchell Robinson's not playing, it's Ariel Hawkporty. So it's an under spot for me now. And then if it gets to 228.5, it becomes an overplay. But I'll go under 231.5 as my 2-star for the Knicks and the Bucks. And then my 1-star is going to be the Knicks minus 1.5. The Bucks really struggle at guarding the perimeter guards. And so I think Brunson is, I really like Joe's plays here. And I think Brunson's going to have a field day coming off of a loss against the Miami Heat. They're going to be rested in this situation. The Bucks were getting crushed by the Cavaliers and then really made it a fight, whereas the Knicks handled the Cavaliers. If you're using some of these transitive properties of betting, obviously matchups dictate this a lot more than anything like that in that small sample size. But I do think the matchup-wise for the Knicks is going to be a nightmare for the Bucks. So I like Knicks minus 1.5. Then I'll even throw a crazy one out there. No stars, but a sprinkle, a little stardust. AJ Green first basket, 12-1. And I think if we get an AJ Green first basket 3-pointer at like north of 15-1, because I know DraftKings sometimes opens that market. It's not open yet. But if we see an AJ Green first basket 3-pointer, you could find first basket 12-1. But if you find the 3-pointer also 15-1 or better, we got to take it while these first basket markets are still open.
Michael Fiddle just on a podcast, even on a sprinkle play, just gave out a first basket prop. My whole world view is shook.
Giannis is going to win the opening tip. They're going to run a double action, and they're going to try and find a shooter. Milwaukee does it very frequently.
I'm down. I'm down for this. Just because you did it. I'm down for this. This is incredible. By the way, in support of all these plays, how about this one? The Bucks are 18th in half court offense or defense so far this early season. That is not a good number when you consider some of the variance that has kind of been in play. And the Knicks have been not like amazing in half court offense, but probably will kick it up here with this game versus the Bucks. I like David, our producer, David Payne, Stardust. That's very nice. I like that. Gotta make a graphic for it. Now I gotta make more graphics. Okay. Kyle, 2 and 1 stars.
Yeah, real quick, the first basket play reminds me, our guy Jim Turvey, he hit on Manat 14-1 today when he got the start for Boston. He threw him in there and hit on that. So that I think the juice might be flowing there on those first basket plays. My 2-star play is Chet Holmgren over 27.5 points and rebounds here. Chet's looked really good so far this season. Good matchup here against the Kings here. You know, they do grade out pretty well defensively, but I think this is a spot where I'm going to need to rely on Chet continuing to put up offensive numbers here. I project him for nearly 19.8 points and just under 10 rebounds in this spot. So projections like Chet Holmgren in this spot against the Kings. And then my 1-star, I'm going to Miles Bridges over 25.5, same market PR. No Brandon Miller, and this one should open up some more shots for Miles Bridges when looking at the data from last year, which is a bit skewed when you want to add LaMelo Ball. But just with Brandon Miller off the floor last year, Miles Bridges had a 29.5 usage rate. So adjusting that down to considering he's going to be playing more with LaMelo Ball, I have him at about a 27.5% usage rate here. And with that projection, looking like he's at 21.5 points alone, 8.5 rebounds. And he's been active on the offensive end as is this season, even with Miller there. I know he missed last game, but averaging 15 field goal attempts per game. 7 threes per game, and he hasn't really been all that efficient either. Only shooting 40% from the field. He's had 2 games, sub 38% field goal percentage or better. So if we get an efficient game from Miles Bridges, I think we'll be even better. Obviously, I know Miami's defense has been good this season, but I do think it's a spot where we're going to see increased volume for Bridges. So I'll take the over on the points and rebounds for him.
All right, good stuff. Here is your board for best bets on the night. You can check it out at youtube.com/the Action Network. Joe Dellera's got Jalen Brunson over 34.5 points and assists. The Sixers first quarter on the money line. Davion Mitchell over 16.5 points and assists. Kyle Murray likes Bam Adebayo over 9.5 rebounds. Chet Holmgren over 27.5 points and rebounds. And Miles Bridges over 25.5 points and rebounds. Michael Fiddle likes Heat -5.5. Late edition of Knicks Bucks under 231.5 as a 2-star, and Knicks -1 as his 1-star. Before we move on, don't forget to sign up for Action Pro for real-time pick alerts from action experts like Brandon Anderson, Joe Dellera, and our entire Action Network team. Plus, you can access our pro projections powered by Sean Kerner and our predictive analytics team. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro and get $20 off the annual price with promo code BUCKETS20. So don't miss out on the best bets at the best prices. Visit actionnetwork.com/pro and use promo code BUCKETS20 to get $20 off a year of Action Pro. So tomorrow night is King of the Court at DraftKings. And as a reminder of how this works, you bet on a prop for a player. And if that prop leads the night in points, rebounds, and assists, you get a share along with everybody else who bet that prop of the prize money. So it's Fiddle talked about this last week, that this is the rare kind of promo situation that he thinks there's real value on. Kyle Murray has run projections, which I will run you through right now. Your leader in the clubhouse for King of the Court, Giannis Antetokounmpo, no surprise. By the way, I had kind of been like, yeah, Giannis has looked good this season. And then like today I went and actually looked and like, oh my God. He's shooting like 69% from the field. His splits are hilarious, by the way, because it's like 69% from the field, 62% from 3, and 62% from the line. It's really funny. 2 is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 23.9. If they go to double overtime again on a back-to-back, we'll see if Shai plays tomorrow night. I don't even know those will get listed. You have to be careful with that one. LaMelo Ball is next, actually, on Kyle's projections at 17.5% to win King of the Court. Joel Embiid is at 9%. Tyrese Maxey, 8%. We'll come back to him. Karl-Anthony Towns at 7.6%. Jalen Brunson, his teammate, at 5.1%. Steph is at 4.9%. They're on a back-to-back. Domantas Sabonis at 4.2%. James Harden, who we'll come back to, 3.9. How about BJ Edgecombe coming in here at 3.25? A rookie king of the... Can you imagine, Joe Dellera, a rookie king of the court? Can you imagine what would happen?
I can't even imagine the bonus bets that would be associated with VJ Edgecombe, like you winning king of the court.
Right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about king of the court for our special DraftKings pick of the night. Kyle, who do you like the best to win king of the court?
Yeah, just a little bit of added context to those sim numbers there. Obviously, for some of the guys who we know and love, like Giannis, SJ, this season stats aren't really factoring in. So all the monster numbers that Giannis has been putting up, not really factoring into my projections right now. So that's why I'm under the market on him. And then BJ Edgecombe, I don't have much to work off, so we're using his pro data, and he's been absolutely crushing. For me, I'm going to Tyrese Maxey, though. I think, like you mentioned, 8% King of the Court projection in my sim there. For me, I'm looking to take the moonball shot here without necessarily lighting money on fire. And I think for me, I'm usually not going to be picking any of the top guys in terms of where DraftKings is setting their line. Eventually, the goal is to have a pick percentage or a public pick percentage number here to talk about as well, so that way we can then get a leverage number based on the sims. For me, obviously, Giannis, SGA, even LaMelo, these are going to be the popular options. So I'm probably going to steer away from those guys because I'm looking for the big payday. So Tyrese Maxey is going to be my option. The angle for me is Embiid's been pretty limited. He's only played 20 minutes at most in games so far this season. The matchup's fantastic here for Maxey, who's been playing a ton of minutes. They're on the second half of a back-to-back, so maybe if this game stays close and we get 37, 38-plus minutes again for Tyrese Maxey in this elite matchup against Washington with a limited Embiid, maybe we can get one of those 40-point real-life performances and then add on some assists and rebounds as well. So that's the angle for Maxey for me.
Okay, I like it. He's been such a boss, man. He absolutely closed that game out, and which I was like getting nervous continuously with the Magic kind of hanging around. Closed that one out for me on my 3-star. Joe Dellera, what's your favorite King of the Court play for Tuesday?
I mean, I love Jalen Brunson in this spot. I talked about the matchup previously. I just think it's an incredible spot for him against this Milwaukee Bucks team, especially after looking to bounce back from that loss against the Miami Heat. So I think that there's plenty of opportunity for Brunson. He's obviously not going to be the most popular player on the board when you have Giannis there, especially. So I do think that there is obviously a certain level of strategy towards picking this. Sometimes, maybe it's worth picking the chalk, but if you're really in it, which the way that this promo is done, you should really be trying to get a pretty significant bonus bet if you get the right guy. You want to be picking people that have a puncher's chance. They're probably not the favorite though, so I do think that Brunson, kind of similar to Maxey, is somebody that has a pathway towards getting that super high scoring game, while also picking up some of the secondary stat categories and the rebounds and the assists. So I like Brunson in this spot, but definitely a couple names that I was interested in just looking at this list. Variety of different guys that have a chance to really pop.
And then it'll be Giannis again.
Yeah, I will say it does make it a little bit more difficult when you have two guys like Giannis and Shea in the same slate, because then I think you're more likely to have a top guy, and it might not be as much of a problem if you pick one of them, because the picks are going to be split. If Giannis was the only really top dog on this slate, then I think it does make it a little bit easier to zag. Whereas when you have multiple players, we've had some slates with Giannis, Jokic, and Shea, it's really tough to deviate from one of the three. But at least at that point, you're just trying to pick which one of the three you think, is maybe going to be least picked out of those.
Fiddle, what do you think about King of the Court on Tuesday?
Let me ask you guys a strategy question for this real quick.
Ooh.
Do we think that, like, I was going to go with Brunson and have a very similar cap as Joe. Do we think that choosing a Nick in a slate that has a lot of small market teams in it is one of those ones where you might not get the bang of the buck on the payout versus choosing someone on another team? And, like, is this the one where, like, let's say Kyle's projections have Brunson at, what'd you say, Kyle? 5.1% chance for Brunson. Is this the one where more than 5% of the pool actually picks Brunson because he's a Knick? Because we have Sacramento, Milwaukee, Oklahoma City on this card. And is this the one, Charlotte? So, like, we have a bunch of small markets. Is it best to avoid a Knick right now?
I think when you're talking about just for this sort of promo on this slate where there's two top guys, we probably will see Brunson. Like, I think there's a pretty plausible chance that Brunson is third or fourth in terms of the public pick percentage, but it's more so how much of the pie he's going to take up. I'd be pretty surprised if he takes up any more than 10 to 15% of picks. So obviously when you chop it up that way, I do think LaMelo will be third, and then either Brunson or Cat will be fourth. But I do think it'll be difficult for him to take up so much of the pie, just because I think SGA and Giannis are going to carry a lot of that weight.
For what it's worth, last year I actually got this on a Brunson. I picked Brunson for the time that he won King of the Court, and it was about like $440 in bonus bets. So I think the strategy has become a little bit more clear for a lot of people, especially as it's expanded to some of these other sports. We're seeing them for hockey, we're seeing them for football, and I think that the strategy is starting to kind of firm up for people, especially the general public. But I think in that vein, people are going to say, well, he's New York, he's popular, he's this, he's that. There's a lot of like competing ideologies. And I think the people that are really, just saying, oh, I just got to pick the guy that's going to have the most, are going to go with the Giannis's and the Sheas, because they're obviously most likely to get there.
Can we say theoretically, Kyle, if you're trying to maximize your EV on this, you would want someone whose ownership is less than what you have at chance to win?
Yeah, 100%. I think, I mentioned the ideal way that I'm going to play this out with this model is eventually going to find a way to use the DraftKings line, because I do think for the majority, people are going to be picking based on how likely these guys are actually to, play out as the PRA winner, and that's going to play out in the market. So you can get a public pick percentage from that, and then find a way to get leverage. But I do think it's going to be very slate dependent, because you're going to see slates where, you have, like, for example, Joe mentioned this before we went live, like Austin Reeves. Like, if he was on this slate, he would probably be a pretty popular pick coming off of that 50-point performance. I think LaMelo will be more popular since he's coming off of that massive performance against Washington. Some of it will come into play based on, like, game log watching as well. But yeah, I think the idea to have someone who has a lower pick percentage chance than your actual in the sim, I think, is certainly the best way to go.
So mine was Brunson, but I think a sneaky one, Zach LaVine, and I'll leave it there.
So I was just looking at Zach LaVine. I looked at his like game log versus OKC is about what you would expect, where it's like,
yeah, it's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they bench, here's the thing: is like even if the starters sit, all their guys defend. Chris Youngblood will lock him up. I don't know how. AJ Mitchell, put the clamps down. Like,
I will say, like, some of these guys though, right? Like, it is harder when you have like this type of promo, right? Because it's only once a week. It's one thing if you're able to run this sim, like Kyle, you can probably speak to this better, but if you're running a sim and you're doing it every single day or multiple times in the same day, you're gonna eventually, get a little bit more of those outlier performances. And obviously with a smaller sample size, it can definitely skew where you're just like, oh, like I didn't think that was going to happen, but you don't have as many cracks or bites at the apple here. So it's like, you don't want to go, I don't think it's advantageous to go pick somebody like DeMar DeRozan or like Norman Powell, where you're just like, those guys aren't going to do it unless they drop like 55 or 60 points. And then they're both also the player, if they did, they're going to have 0 assists. So it becomes a little bit harder to navigate.
I thought about Norman Powell versus this Hornets team because he could definitely like drop 40. He is averaging 7 rebounds a game.
Yeah, but then it's like, what? Then you're at like max 50. It becomes very difficult to see a path for these guys that don't put up any of the other stats.
Yeah, because it's like Giannis just does 50 in his sleep. Like he wakes up at 50 a night.
Yeah.
My actual sneaky pick here is going to be James Harden. That's going to be mine. Versus a Warriors team likely to be resting guys. And I think James could have himself a night short flight. I like all the signs about James, averaging 21.7. I will go that direction. But Jalen Brunson is going to be our official DraftKings King of the Court pick of the night. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Okay, take a look at our picks there. Jalen Brunson, Giannis, I think are at the top for errors. Rivals to the throne, Tyrese Maxey from Kyle, and I'll put James Harden there as crown seekers. We can throw Zach LaVine on there at the bottom as well. Before we get out of here, let's do a little bit of open run and get to your comments. Thanks for joining us here at youtube.com/The Action Network or on Twitter if you're joining us there. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. If you leave comments over at the YouTube page, we will hit them here in open run, so make sure to do that. Let's go this. Jimmy says, you like Charlotte tomorrow as a live dog. No, we do not. We like the Heat there. That would be the 3-star from Michael Fiddle. And that will also, if I had one tonight, that would be mine as well. T2 says, what I've learned is that teams like to play fast. And it's true. Seeing a lot of pace early in the season. Wonder if this keeps up, but it's like, what's the style of play so far this season? Lots of fouls, lots of full court pressure, and lots of pace. Everybody's running. Actually, some teams need to slow down. The Wizards need to slow the fuck down. Slow down. Run offense. You could have won that game versus the Hornets. Run offense. My God. T2 also says Sabonis over 5.5 assists is his best bet with the Kings taking on the Thunder. I don't know, man. It's a lot of turnovers. Maybe we parlay the overs and the overs on assists and turnovers for Sabonis because they're still going to create those. James Woodruff, Mikal Bridges over 3.5 rebounds. Kyle, can you run your projections? Check your projections and tell me about Mikal Bridges 3.5 rebounds while I go to Joe, since this is, of course, a Knicks podcast. Joe, Mikal Bridges over 3.5 rebounds. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why he couldn't. Milwaukee, again, they play at an extremely fast pace. I think that his matchup is good. We've kind of seen Bridges continue to get plenty of run. Mike Brown, he's kind of talked about how he wants to play the guys less. It almost just seems like he's playing a longer rotation. Brunson's still getting his minutes. Cat's still getting his minutes. Bridges and OG are still getting their minutes. So I'm not like dissuaded from any rotational changes here. So 3.5 rebounds. He's not exactly a ball hawk. So having Josh Hart back maybe hurts this a little bit, but still no Mitchell Robinson. So still plenty of opportunities for Bridges on over 3.5 against a fast-paced Bucks team.
Kyle, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to buy me some time to run these numbers because I have a huge edge. I have him projected for exactly 3.5 rebounds, so the exact same as the market. So unfortunately, I'm no help there.
You got me all excited for a second, Kyle. No, I'm
Sorry.
mad.
Sorry.
Speaking of Bridges, how about Miles Bridges for Kings, says Paul Riani. So he's averaging 32 PRA a night, but he's shooting 40% from the field and 32% from three early on. LaMelo did find him for some really great corner threes versus the Wizards, but that's the Wizards defense and not the Heat. Your biggest problem there is that the Heat are going to play so much zone, and that's going to take away a lot of what he wants to do. Bridges is not a big that flashes middle, right? So that's going to be an opportunity more for, I guess, Kalkbrenner, but probably actually Musa Diabate might have some assist potential because they're going to play that zone, and that's the easiest way to beat it is to flash your big middle. I don't necessarily love Bridges in this spot. I think Bridges is a good king spot, maybe another night, but not tomorrow versus the Heat, I would say. Yeah. Joe, you with me on that, or what do you think?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it's just a little bit too tall of an ask, especially like Miami doesn't play super fast either. So I think it's a little bit of a tougher spot.
Okay, it's going to do it for Buckets. Appreciate you guys being with us. Thanks for joining us. Kyle Murray at KMurDFS, Joe Dellera at Joe Dellera, Michael Fiddle at Fiddle's Picks. Here's your best bets of the night. Once again, Joe's got Jalen Brunson over 34.5 points and assists for his 3-star. Sixers first quarter money line, and Davion Mitchell over 16.5 points and assists. Kyle Murray likes his 3-stars. Bam Adebayo over 9.5 rebounds. 2-star on Chet Holmgren over 27.5 points and rebounds, and Miles Bridges over 25.5 PR, which that does play into what we were talking about with the Bridges opportunity. Michael Fiddle likes Heat minus 5.5, Knicks Bucks under 231.5, and Knicks -1. So once again, I am against my will being forced into the fact that this is in fact a Knicks podcast. Hope you guys have enjoyed the show. Give us a 5-star review. Hit the like button on your way out here. Hit the like button. Help me out. Hope you guys have a great night. Thanks, David Payne, my producer, for helping us out. We'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.